Hello, Unchained family. This is Faith Unchained, where we teach you how to break the chains that bind you. And before we begin, I ask that you please subscribe to our channel and be sure to click on that notification bell beside that subscribe button. Like this video because each like helps us to get seen by more viewers like you. And please share this video and our content with anyone and everyone that you know. Okay? So guys, this week is a bit of Star Wars talk, right? In relation to the failure of Christianity and the failure of the Jedi. So this is a discussion that came about from a conversation I had between my brother a couple of weeks ago. Sorry guys, that was a truck. But yeah, we had a conversation about this a couple of weeks ago. And so why the Jedi Order failed is so similar to why we as Christians are failing in our own reality today. So we have lost our way, much how the Jedi have lost their way, because we've been losing sight of God. And so immediately, one of the first similarities that I saw between us and the Jedi Order was pride, arrogance, and narcissism, right? So they were prideful about their own beliefs that they arbitrarily created. They were not allowed to form any kinds of attachments, meaning they weren't allowed to have any relationships, romantic relationships, or be married. Now, some of the order were hypocritical in the sense that one of them, I'm not exactly sure which one. I'll put his picture up somewhere in the video, but one of them was actually married to a couple of people. So in some sense, they were a bit hypocritical. They weren't allowed to form any kinds of feelings or emotions either. And the most crucial thing that I could say that attributed to their downfall is that they had such a fear of the dark side, right? So they were arrogant in the sense that they became comfortable in their temple and on their diplomatic missions, right? Somebody on the streets of Coruscant that might have been homeless might have looked at a Jedi and looked at where they were coming from, right? You live in a palace, while each and every one of us struggles down here in the streets of Coruscant. And they became overconfident in their own abilities. They became narcissists and didn't think that they needed to expand on themselves and improve as both students of the Force and protectors of peace. So another similarity I quickly began to notice was that they created a council of like-minded individuals sharing the same ideology, right? This wasn't a good thing in the sense that if you disagreed with the council's agenda, they didn't allow you on the council, even if you were an individual who was deserving of being on the council. So it's much like what we do when we as Christians cherry pick things out of Scripture. Like when we as a group take things out of Scripture that only make us feel good as a collective, right? It tells us things that, we only pick things that we want to hear, that's suitable to the kind of lifestyle that we want to live. And then the second someone comes along telling us something that we need to hear versus what we want to hear, we shun them and ostracize them from the group. And one of the other things that caused the Jedi to fall was ignoring the will of the Force. And so in the movies, addressing what I said about disagreeing with the council, right? Qui-Gon He was one of the only ones that when it came to listening to the council versus the will of the Force, he chose to listen to the will of the Force, because the will of the Force was different from that of the will of the council, and as a result he was shunned and he was ostracized from the council, even though he was deserving of having a seat on the council. They didn't want him on the council because they considered him to be radical. And so in the council's minds, they've somehow become so self-important. They thought that obedience was to the council, and it was more important and much higher than that of the will of the Force, right? So much so that they began to lose their connection to the Force. And Mace Windu and Yoda, in one of the movies, Mace Windu said to Yoda, our ability to use the Force has been diminished. And you can see how that relates to what we're talking about here. Because they listen to their will versus the actual will of the Force, that connection was diminished. We have fallen prey to this ignorance because as a collective, right, we only want what makes us feel good versus what we actually need to hear. And this is something that we do in our own reality. It's something that's very prevalent. Lastly, and this is probably the Jedi's biggest mistake, was not knowing who their enemy was or what their enemy was actually capable of. So the Jedi had so much fear of the dark side that they completely shunned anything that could potentially lead to somebody falling to the dark side. They shunned feelings and emotions. Anger, jealousy, hate, fear are all pathways to the dark side, right? So much so that they got rid of any kinds of emotional attachments, any romantic involvements with people. So they didn't get in relationships and they didn't get married, right? Because fear of loss is also a path to the dark side. And this is just something that they feared so much that they put all kinds of restrictions on all of this, right? And so something else that they didn't do, they didn't address anything that had to deal with the dark side. They didn't teach anything that had to deal with the dark side. They didn't, and this went on for thousands of years until Darth Maul reappeared, right? This could be why so many people fell to the dark side, because of this ignorance, and why they didn't know what they were up against. Because by the time, again, Darth Maul came around, they're like, well, he knows the ways of a Jedi. What is he? What is he? They didn't know what he was. And so many of us are doing the exact same thing that the Jedi, that caused them to fall. In the fact that we have become so sure about our own knowledge and our own abilities that we will perish due to lack of knowledge. So guys, I hope that you've enjoyed today's video, because I enjoyed making it. I had something to deal with Star Wars. Star Wars is my favorite movie of all time, and this is exactly why I resonate so well with Star Wars, because I do feel that Jedi and Christians are not so different. They're not so different. And so guys, please let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you have more to add to the similarities between both the fall of the Jedi and the fall of Christianity, leave them in the comments below. And please, I ask that you subscribe to our channel and you click on that notification bell beside that subscribe button. Like this video, because again, each like helps us to get seen by more viewers like yourself, and share this video and our content with everyone you know. Guys, this is Faith Unchained, where we teach you how to break the chains that bind you. See you next time.